Welcome, everybody, to the One to Go show presented by Dirt Track Supply. It is Puka, it is Ryan Aho, and it is Bert Lehman. And if you haven't done already, wherever you're getting this, consuming this, of course, like, subscribe. We had double the normal podcast listeners last week, so you hit the subscribe button. Anything we talked about for you podcasters, just scroll down. You'll be able to see everything in the show notes. YouTube channel, of course, you can get over there, subscribe there too. Facebook, everything, notifications. We're going to start going to more and more races here as summer progresses. A lot of stuff going on, so you're going to want those notifications as we do stuff. So again, Ryan Aho and Bert Lehman, another week in a race, another week in the books, guys. We're halfway through summer.
Lots of drama this week, lots of drama, lots of racing, and we're going to talk about, maybe there's too much. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I know you guys went to the races. I didn't go. I watched a ton online, but how was the weekend for you guys?
Weekend was good. The weather was really good out in eastern Wisconsin. I made it to Shawano Speedway on Saturday night. I don't know if I don't know if we're going to discuss that a little bit later. Puka, how was your weekend?
Good. Same thing. Hot. We actually got some rain this morning. So someone said yesterday or Saturday, told me we've had less than a quarter of inch of recorded rain since June 1st up here. So a little bit of rain, but it was hot. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful weekend to be in the boat. I'll tell you that. 85, 90 degrees all weekend again. Like the 10th week in a row.
Minnesota's been dry. And then I got friends down in the southern part of the country. They're like, all it does is rain down here. So it's, I think I'll take the dry. Now, if it does happen to start raining, 2 o'clock in the morning till 5 a.m. is a perfect time to do that. We don't need rain during the day.
Well, look at the Lucas. They can't get a race if their life depends on it because of water. And even the health tour this week. And I said, we're dying for some water. I've been watering my grass since June 1st. So, yeah, it's just crazy how your different parts of the country are, some different reactions there. So, well, let's get into it.
We've had I was just going to say, we've had 2 separate weeks where we've had like an inch to inch and a half of rain in eastern Wisconsin. Yeah. But it's been during the week, so it's been good.
Right. That makes for better racetracks. So episode number 89, and I'm kind of partial on this one, so I'm starting. So I know I'm going to ruin this for Puka. I hope you have a back.
Of course you are.
But I got old Slippery Dick Chrisman is all I got. So lots of history. I mean, I remember him coming up. I think his dog's name was it Chassis or was it Ben? I feel like it was.
Oh, he did have that dog.
Yeah, him and Jan always brought the dog with. I remember, visiting with them up on the hill. They always had a parking spot at Cedar Lake, and there was a year back in the Super Stocks. He won like 30 features. That guy won a pile of races. And kind of a cool story. Mark Tremberth, we call him Lamb, but he actually interviewed him because he was in the Hall of Fame. He hauled his car to Hibbing 100 miles one time, and I think it was with either a chain or a tow bar. I feel like it was a chain. So you got these people going, oh, man, I can't get to the track. And this Dick Chrisman was a true racer, right? I mean, who's going to tow their car all the way to Hibbing from Superior like that back in the day? Of course, you wouldn't do that now. But, man, lots of stories with him. He's raced everything, super stocks. He's ran late models. I mean, he was a legend for a long time. And I guess one other story, and you probably remember this, Puka. You might have been there back before. This is kind of dating us a little bit. Before before enclosed trailers, open trailers were the norm. And if you had like a Parker trailer that kind of had the ramp and all that, you were super cool. Well, I remember Freddie Fran and Hibbing. He actually said, man, we got a special treat for everybody after the races. Dick Chrisman is going to drive his hauler around the Hibbing Raceway. And now people would be like, they're big white boxes. What are you even talking about, right? Well, he had all these lights all down his trailer, down his Q-bend. And let's face it, it was nothing special. It was a Q-bend kind of lettered up with a Parker trailer that was pretty cool. But back then, that was a huge, huge deal. So lots of stories about Dick Chrisman. Who do you guys have?
Well, that's who I had too. I mean, that's the only guy I could think of. But yeah, I mean, I still see him. He comes to the Nationals. He only sits like a section over from us, Bert. Section or two over. And what's his son's name? Chops comes.
Yep.
Dick's there. So I see him about once a year, and sometimes we small talk a little bit. But yeah, he was great. What's that spot? Performance Auto or something like that out of Arizona. It was so cool. He had that on the right rear corner panel, something auto. I don't know. He got his engines from Phoenix or something. He's like, oh my God, this guy's so awesome. He's like, gets his engines from Arizona. He's so good. So yeah, that's who I am. How about you, Bert?
You might go with Joe Provenzino, right? Because he's 89. And a little side note on Joe, I haven't figured out what happened yet. I wish I would have thought of it before now, but I was looking at my race pass there, Puka, from this weekend at the Cedar Lake Speedway. Joe Provenzino, DQ.
I had a text message with him. He said at the scales, they measured his deck height, they measured his wheelbase, and everything was good. And then he said he must have been on his way home. I didn't say what happened. I said I was going to congratulate you on your win, and then I see there's a DQ, and he said that, and below that he said, I guess you can't win them all. He didn't really go into what it was, but he dominated that race. I watched it. He completely dominated.
Yeah, we'll have to do a little follow-up to see what he got DQ'd for. So There you go. Typical Provenzino. You're just like your brother Jeff. Same nonsense, right? Bunch of cheaters. But, I tell you, he's 89, of course, because Dick Crispin was his hero, too. So, your turn. Who do you got?
I have Brad Miller. He is the late model driver who had that vicious roll at Plymouth Speedway a few weeks ago. So he's number 89. I don't have any. I know he's probably got some really good stories. I don't know any really good stories about him other than in addition to racing a dirt late model, he also races an asphalt super late model at Slinger Speedway. So he does double duty all summer, racing both on the dirt and the asphalt. So
we won't hold it against
him. All right, well, let's get into it here for this week. Like I said, a lot happened.
Yeah, and this week, of course, brought to you by our friends over at Dirt Track Supply in Watertown. Get a hold of Ron, get a hold of Trevor over there. They got great service department. You need parts, you need anything fixed, they're the guys. Go to them. They'll ship parts anywhere. So if you need anything, they can get it to you. And, of course, they build the aero chassis. And it looks to me like Jeremy Castro got another win this week. I believe that's number 10 on the year, so double digits for Castro out west. So pretty cool. They got a good program over there, and it's just getting better. They take really good care of people. So give them a call, and let's get started. Let's start with this. You guys went to some races, right? I just watched a bunch online. Let's start with the races that you actually went to. Bert, let's start with you over in eastern Wisconsin. You just went to Shawano, right?
Yes, I just went to Shawano on Saturday night, and good night of racing. Ron Berna picked up the win in the late model division. That was his first, I believe that was his first regular season win this year. He's won some special races at other tracks, but I think that's his first win at Shawano Speedway this year. And he's really starting to come on strong. He's really putting together a really good season. So he started, I don't know, fifth or so, maybe third or fifth, somewhere in that range, fourth, fifth. And I think it was by the third lap or so, he was in the lead and never looked back. Nick Evelink raced, he was probably eighth or so most of the race. With about 5 laps to go, he really turned it on and passed a few cars, and I think he got up to fourth or so. But the race of the night was actually the IMSA modified feature. The last 2 laps, well, there's a caution, and then with the last 2 laps, Kevin Feck, Jordan Bart and Marcus Yari raced 3 wide pretty much for the final 2 laps, and Feck held on for the win. But that was some of the most exciting racing of the season in the modified division.
So you're telling me that modified racing is better than late model racing is what you're saying?
In that particular race, those 2 laps, yes.
Fair enough. We got to make it out to the big half mile out there. They got a lot of history over there in Shawano, and you talked about Berna. Of course, he's leading, right, the Discount Shop Pals Dirt King series right now. So, we kind of talked about Nick Anvelink early in the year, like he's the guy, but Berna's got a little something for him, I think, out there. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Puka, you went to our old stomping grounds up there, Hibbing Raceway in Hibbing.
Yeah. Made it to Hibbing. I actually made it to Rapids on Thursday night. Kind of a typical show there. Moss showed up in the late model, so that was kind of cool to see. And then Hibbing had the Renee Hughes Memorial Race, so they had the Northern Renegade Sprints. I mentioned them, I think, earlier this year, with the wings on. I really like those. They've been racing, of course, in Grand Rapids the last few years. I know they kind of travel the circuit. They're in Cedar, they're in Bemidji. The non-wing just didn't really grab my attention, but I really like them with the wings, although they did race both classes, the non-winged and the wings, so the show got pushed off a little bit. I don't think they need to do that, but they had 18 show up. So I think that was pretty cool. Darren Murado showed up in the super stock, which surprised me a little bit. Ashland raced, but I'm wondering if he came up because Burdick was down in Cedar Lake for the $5,000.
Well, he's been to Hibbing. He has a win at Hibbing earlier this year as well, so he doesn't really have a home track at all. He's just kind of bouncing around.
Yeah, but the crowd was good too. I would say, coming off of last week, we talked about the pit party and the fireworks and everything that was going on there. I'd say the crowd was about 25% higher than a normal week. And like I said, it was lake weather. It was, 86, 87 degrees on Saturday, but they still managed a really good crowd, so that was good to see.
And Bob Broking over in Rapids, he put his kid over his knee again and gave him a beat down, didn't he?
He looked good.
Pick up the pace, man. You're killing me. You're killing me. So let's start with this. Let's move on to the fan question of the week, brought to you by Cowboy Up Racing. Of course, Shane Hall had another good weekend on the podium a couple times. And actually, guys, we have two questions, okay? We'll start with the first one, and this one's from John, right? And his question is the answer to like a decline in racing? Let me get this right here. I'm going to get this right. He texted me this. Is the answer to struggling racing more racing, right? And what he means by that is there's races 7 nights a week. I mean, you can race anywhere. It's like nonstop. Is this actually good for the sport or bad for the sport? What's your guys' take on that?
Go ahead.
I do believe you can saturate the market too much where it's not good for racing. I think I'm going to touch on this a little bit later when I talk about something else, but I think when you put on very special events, that's when you really draw the crowds. But if you're just throwing out events just to have events, I don't think that's necessarily good for racing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess you kind of break it down to two parts. The racer probably likes it and he improves, and maybe it's a little tougher on the checkbook. But for the fan, so I was at Gondik on Tuesday for the World of Outlaws. I got to the show a little bit late on Thursday in Grand Rapids, and then I'm off to the races on Saturday in Hibbing. And I feel I got my fill. I don't feel today racing deprived. And so as a fan, I think there could be a little bit of burnout. And I'm a hardcore, so for the casual fan, but I don't know, as a racer, Ryan, you were one of the few that basically raced 6-7 nights a week. But, if you, maybe take a step back and look at the guy that was a step down from you. Does he want to race 3 nights a week? Does he want to? It doesn't look like it from the results that, the car counts aren't great. What do you think?
So there's two ways of looking at this, right? I was a points racer. I always, in life, and whether it's business or racing, I like to have a target. And in racing, the targets were points. I never really had the satisfaction, like when I went and just raced regular shows somewhere, it just felt like, okay, I'm here, I'm gone, not a big deal. But if it added to the bigger picture, which was the points chase, well, then that's what kept me going, right? That's what kept me fueled up. Now, I look at it as, for me personally, if I wasn't chasing points, I would have raced half the shows that I did. I guarantee it. There would have been nights like, I just don't feel like it, I'm not going. But the end justified the means. Like, I was trying to chase a national title. So then I'm like, well, I'm doing whatever it takes. I'm winning the national title. I'm going racing. But like you said, you look at the car counts and you look at Proctor, I think they only had 5 modifieds up there. I think Rapids had, maybe they have 5 in Rapids.
Yeah.
And the specials, they talk about all these specials. There's a so-called special every week. I mean, and it's way too much, right? And that's easier, right? And we're going to get into this in a minute here, but it's somewhat easier for the promoter to have a special because they're drawing other race fans in from other tracks. But they're missing the big picture. Take and reduce the schedule, in my opinion. Reduce the schedule some, but put more of an emphasis on getting new faces to the track and building that fan base. The first person that does that's going to be really successful, and that's what it's going to take to really turn the corner and get back to where we need to be in racing. Just simply having more races isn't doing anything good. That's my thoughts on the deal, and I know some people will disagree and some people argue, but with the Hoosier tire shortage right now, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I think sometimes less is more, and people are going to look for more of a quality show, right? If this one over here is paying $1,500 to win and that one pays $5,000, well, in theory, you'd be like, well, I'm going to go to the one where I can at least get a little bit more of a return on my investment. And again, that's going to kill weekly racing. And areas is a different thing too, guys. You know, there's areas out there like Aberdeen where they don't have a ton of racetracks around them, right? So they can kind of do whatever. But if you're in an area that's got several racetracks around you, you can saturate it with your own schedule, but then everybody else's schedule really saturates the market. And I just don't think it's a good deal. Now, another question that we have, this one is from Rick in South Dakota. Should tracks be able to race without an ambulance at the facility? Now, before I get into you guys' comments, I'm going to give a couple little things here. So I think it was about a week ago, 17-year-old Caleb Couch, he died in North Texas in that micro sprint wreck. He started on fire. I don't know what all they had there. It sounds like they were not prepared. It sounds like it was a really bad deal. Methanol fires in general. Kevin Engel, I don't know if you guys saw that. I don't know if I sent you that. He's a sprint car racer. He was out in South Dakota, and him and his wife, they just made the decision that you're not racing tonight. They got to the track, I believe it was at I-90, no ambulance, and she says, you ain't racing without an ambulance. He loaded up, just watched. So that was interesting. And, you know, with that said, I'm going to let you guys touch on your thoughts, and then I have, I guess, some thoughts and some advice for racetracks, you know, if they're listening, to maybe put them in a better situation here. But Bert, why don't we start with you? Should racetracks race without an ambulance on site?
I do not believe racetracks should race if they do not have an ambulance on site. And my reasoning for this is, you know, we've talked on this show a lot about how, you know, drivers have to get the proper equipment to race. I mean, if you don't have the money to get a Hans device, you shouldn't be racing. And I think the same holds true. If a track can't afford to have an ambulance on site, they shouldn't be hosting races, because the driver's safety has to be a high priority on them. Now, I will say you can possibly make an exception depending on where the track is located. For example, Shawano Speedway is located in the city, so the ambulance is only like 5 minutes away. So it's not that far, but I still believe an ambulance should be on site, because those few minutes could make the difference. I mean, you never know when a bad accident's going to happen, but I believe that you have to be prepared. And when I talk about location of the track, a few years ago, I was at TNT Speedway up in Three Lakes, and they did not have an ambulance on site. And this was a Dirt Kings race, and Mitch McGrath rolled his car in 1 and 2, slammed into the concrete barrier, and it took 20 minutes, 30 minutes for an ambulance to get there in order to get him out of the car. And when we were waiting for the ambulance, you know, I was talking to other people that live in the area, and they said, this is a rural area. I mean, we don't have ambulances just, you know, a few miles down the road. You know, and ambulances can take a while to get there. And in those cases, I don't think you should be racing if you're going to have to wait a half hour for an ambulance to get there.
Especially if you don't have equipment, right? I mean, right. If you sat in the car for that long, they did not. So that's kind of a scary deal for sure. Puka, what is your thoughts?
Well, I remember as a kid, you know, in Hibbing, I always remember the ambulance being in the middle. Even when they moved the pits to the back, there was always an ambulance in the middle. You know, I think a lot of times we just take the safety in this sport for granted. Like, you know, the aforementioned gentleman you were talking about, Bert, at the beginning, the number 8, I mean, that terrible rollover he had earlier in the year. And we know Jake Tim 2 weeks ago, and we had, you know, we've already forgotten about Jason Feger at Eldora. I mean, and the guy just walks away, you know, and then that street stock guy in Deer Creek. I mean, there's just been so many, even Bristol earlier in the year. Remember the rollovers down there? So, yeah, I mean, especially if I was an owner, or promoter, etc., I would err on the side of having one. Now, I don't know how that works. Say you have a city ambulance. Can you talk to them about getting it? Do you have to pay them? Do they really want to be there? I know, like Bert was saying, locations, everything. Grand Rapids, Hibbing, the tracks in the middle of town, probably not. I mean, for Hibbing, it's like literally 2 blocks away from the station. You know, you jump over the college and it's right there. Bemidji, stuff like that, Cedar Lake, you're a little bit further out. I think they should. Like I said, thank God these cars have been built well. Like I said, it seems like we've seen an excess of rollovers this year for whatever reason. But I would err on the side of doing that. What do you think?
Yeah, and you mentioned Hibbing. Of course, they don't have. They used to have an ambulance. They don't. But like you said, the ambulance is literally right across the highway, right? I mean, it's literally. I mean, they can probably be
2 blocks a block. Yeah.
but it's still a perception thing. So let's. I guess there's a couple ways to look at it, right? Number one, if you don't have an ambulance on site, okay, well, let's start there. Your people better be trained. They better be. I mean, there's one thing of being an EMT, but there's a whole other thing to understand what to do. Because not only should you have just an ambulance, but there needs to be people that are educated on fire, right? I had somebody message me and they said, you should have buckets of water in each corner in case there's a fire. That don't put out methanol. That'll actually spread a methanol fire, right? So do tracks have the equipment to put out a methanol fire? I mean, you got to have some special material, some special equipment, special foam. They're using these big blankets now to put out a methanol fire. I mean, I don't know if you remember Dennis Jones getting burnt up in Thunder Bay, and that was you can't see it. You can't see methanol burn. So that's one thing. But then do they have, I mean, if a person has a heart attack, do they have all the equipment? Do they have everything they need there if a person goes into diabetic shock or whatever it's called, if they crash, do they have all that stuff? So there's 2 types of ambulances. And I learned this because we're trying to get track insurance all squared away for Grand Rapids. And there's a transfer and a transport. Okay. So a typical ambulance, like across the street from Hibbing Raceway, that's transport. They can come pick you up, haul you to the hospital. They can do all that. But some tracks have a transfer ambulance that's on site with trained EMTs with all the equipment. Everything that's in a regular ambulance is in that ambulance, but they can't haul them to the hospital, but they can meet the other ambulance to transport them there. So I think that's an alternative. And some insurance companies are like, hey, that as long as they have that, that's good. But I think it's a perception deal. For the life of me, I don't understand why every track, because let's face it, it don't cost much to go get a used ambulance, right? An old ambulance. It doesn't need to be anything that's spectacular, but it's got to be functional and look the part and have some trained, qualified people inside there. The safety deal, it's going to be one of those times, and we've seen it. I mean, it's already happened where, well, I mean, I guess, it doesn't happen until it happens. And it's that one time that you're like, if an ambulance was there, it could have saved that person's life, right? And if it's not there, like Bert said, I mean, we have to wear a helmet. I mean, you saw in Bristol, the guy got DQ'd after winning the Hornet feature for not having his driver gloves on. Okay, now obviously Bristol, they have an ambulance on site. Okay, so it's not like they shortcut it there. But, they go as far as like DQing people for, you go to a racetrack and they're like, if you don't have a window net up, you're disqualified. Well, I think a window net is actually less safe, right? In a lot of cases. I mean, I've seen a lot of issues happen with window nets, and then these same tracks don't have an ambulance or proper safety equipment or safety personnel. It's like, I don't know, that just don't seem right. And to answer your question there, Puka, a lot of cases, most cases, in fact, I'm going to go on the limb and say all cases, if they don't have an ambulance on site, it's because they don't want to pay for it. Because it's $700, $800. I'm sure it's different in different areas, but the tracks that I talked to, they said it's about $700, $800 a night. And you might be able to work something out to get it cheaper. So it's a little bit of an expense, right, to have that there. I mean, insurance on the track per night is $700, $800. Now you got to pay $700, $800 for an ambulance, and most of these tracks are breaking even at best on regular nights, and they're looking, especially the club run tracks, are like, how can we reduce costs? Well, if somebody dies because they didn't have an ambulance, you ain't gonna have to worry about costs. You ain't gonna have a racetrack anymore. So I would say figure out how to make that happen. So to answer that question, I think that it's okay to have a transfer, have the proper trained people there, and maybe WISSOTA, right? And I don't know how this would all work. I mean, obviously, WISSOTA would have to hire somebody to train them because they don't have personnel to train them. But I think that every track, it's mandatory, guys, that they go to a tech meeting every year. It's mandatory that they sit through classes to do the My Race Pass stuff, to enter in their information. Why isn't it mandatory that they have their safety personnel at least take a one-day class? It can even be on Zoom or whatever, But, hey, here's some things to watch for. If this happens, here's how you respond. Why, as a sanctioning body, why are they not offering that to tracks or making it mandatory that they train their safety personnel in case of an incident? I think that's something that could definitely be looked at in the future.
Yeah, interesting.
So with that said, any other things that you want to touch on there before we jump on to the next topic?
I had one thing. Now, you said at an earlier episode, you used to have to be able to crawl out of the opposite side. And didn't you start saying some of the decks are coming up and the roofs are coming down? And I mean, as a racer, I would sure want to make sure I could get out the other side.
There used to be a rule on the roll bar on the right side to the deck. It used to be 12 inches. Okay. Now, I don't know if that's still a rule or not, but I'm here to tell you, all you have to do is look at a modified or a late model, and most people are not crawling out the other side. It's just simply not happening. They have a hard time crawling out the opening, right? Because they got everything so tight, especially with the full containment seats. You get a full containment seat with a headrest on the right side, and you got your visor on there, and you got all that stuff, and the roll bar coming down. You are not getting out. Now, I know Scott Ward had available. He had some roofs that had like a escape hatch deal on it. So they actually make roofs. That's something that could maybe be looked at. But, man, I mean, you don't see it often, but all it takes is once. All it takes is once, and, so safety is just not looked at enough. It's really not. And as a racer, man, look at safety. I'm like, I was broke. When I was racing, I was flat broke, right? I mean, I borrowed and I did whatever I had to do to get enough money to have tires, shocks, fuel to the racetrack. The last thing I was thinking about was getting a Hans device, a fire suppression system. I'm like, kidding me? Like, I'm lucky I have a racing suit. What are you talking about? I'm like, that don't make me go any faster. And that's how most racers think. So you have to have somebody policing that and saying, look, this is the rules. You have to do this. And it's there to protect themselves.
Yeah, they're worried about grinding tires versus safety.
And
for sure.
I agree with Ryan that, it's difficult for a driver to get outside, to get out of a late model, to get out the passenger side. Actually, at Shawano Speedway, I did see a driver have to go out that way. And if he wouldn't have gone out that way, I don't think that driver would be alive today. Dave Fever, this was probably like 8 years ago. On the front stretch, right in front of the grandstand, they got together and his car was slanted like this with a car underneath him blocking the window for him to get out. And his car was engulfed in flames, the back end, because his fuel cell, the stopper that's supposed to prevent the fuel from coming out if it's upside down, either he didn't have one or it didn't work. So fuel was gushing out of the car was on fire, and I thought I was going to watch a driver die. And Jeff Curtin, who was a competitor in that race, went in with with his driver's suit and helmet on yet, and helped pull him out of the passenger side of the car. I mean, that was a scary incident. Actually, that incident, they had to call the fire department to come put the fire out.
I think you sent us the video of that. Don't you have that?
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't know if I still have the video, but I did send it to you. Yes.
Yeah, that's scary. Here's another tip on that, because usually when the fuel's pouring out, most of the time, because most of them have screw-on caps. Now I think that might even be a rule, but most of the time it's coming out the overflow. Okay, so racers, if you're watching this, the overflow hose that comes off, it's kind of the vent hose that comes off the fuel cell. It should come off, and you should loop it 360 degrees and then have it tailing back. A lot of people have it come off the fuel cell and then it just tails back. Heck, when they overfill the fuel cell, fuel's usually coming out of that deal. So if they roll over, it's coming out. If you loop it, that's a lot safer. And I think that's something I did that on my car, and I got that because Don Kopp. I don't know if you remember Don Kopp. Bert might not know him. His kid's Brandon.
No.
I was behind him at a Como Mod Series show in Hibbing. And I started right behind him, and my stuff was really good. And I come into turn one, and he had fuel pouring out of his overflow, and my front tires hit it, and I pushed up the track, and I was so pissed. I'm like, because it was just, your tires hit moisture, and I went and looked, and it was just, he overfilled it. It just drains out the hose. Well, maybe that was an advantage on his part or whatever. but I never had it come out because I always looped it. I think that's safer for drivers too. So guys, what do you say we have a little fun? Let's get to some donkey awards, okay? We got a few this week, all right? So did you see the picture online of the fan over in Eldora with his pants down with Kyle Larson signing his ass cheek? Did you see that?
I'm glad I didn't see it.
I'm gonna make sure you get it. I'm sending it. I can't unsee this, right? So this dude, evidently, I'm clearly guessing there's alcohol involved. He was all proud. He goes, one cheek's got Tyler Courtney, the other cheek had Kyle Larson, and I think I might go get it tattooed on there. All right, come on, man. All right, as a racer, there's certain body parts that I'm not opposed to signing. I promise. Right? Okay. Your ass cheeks on a dude is not one of them. Okay, that's a donkey award. Talk about ass. That's a jackass award right there. That is just that's not cool.
I just want to say one thing about body parts that I'm sure you're okay with signing. Back in the 90s when
arms and stuff.
When Hava Tampa came to Shawano Speedway for the first time, I remember after the races, I was walking through the pits, and yeah, Rick Eckert and Steve Francis were signing some bras.
Yeah, or maybe what was under the. Well, I'm not really sure what that is, but I'm just saying, So another one I got a text message from a guy, and I'm not going to call it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see. So promoters, all right, and I've seen this a number of times from a number of different promoters, right? The worst thing a track promoter can do is jump online and like verbally attack another track about their track prep, right? Like, oh man, their track prep sucks. The place is a dump. Because it always comes back and bites you in the ass, okay? Now, I'm just going to be honest. A buddy of mine, Dan, and he knows who he is, and he listens to the show. Come on, man. You got to be smarter than this. You can't be on there talking smack about your neighboring racetrack, right? And let's be honest, not every night's been good at your racetrack, okay? If you can figure out who I'm talking about, I'll let you figure it out. I'm being a lot nicer than I should be right now, but track promoters, don't be bashing another track's track prep on social media because you have to race the following week, and you better make sure your stuff is really good. You guys seen a few examples of that ever?
I've seen some stuff close to that, but what's the saying? Don't throw rocks in glass houses.
Exactly. I remember Dennis. He was at the Superstock Series, and we laughed about it. But he called out Hibbing a couple of years ago because it was like an 8.5-hour train wreck on day one of the Labor Day shootout. And then they went to the Northern Nationals where he was on the board the next week, and it was an 8-hour freaking train wreck, and the track was a debacle. And he's like, yeah, I think I got to eat crow on that one. So just let's be a little smarter about this, all right? Now, another one I have is, did you watch the World of Outlaw stuff this weekend?
Which sprints?
Yeah, did you? So at Fergus Falls, okay? So they had the Steffa Street Stock Tour, and they had Midwest Mods, but the Steffa Street Stock Tour was the main card at Fergus, and then they did bring in the World of Outlaws for a support class for that.
Threw them in, yeah.
They threw them in. And I'll be honest, the street stock racing was better, okay? It was, both nights. But there was two incidents on night number 2, one in the B mods, one in the street stocks. And donkey awards go to both these guys, but not for what you think. You got to kind of follow along here to see why they're getting donkey awards. Kyle Jeanette, Reese Stenberg, okay? One's in the streeter, one's in the B mod. Now, Kyle Jeanette, he took the lead. He had a great hot rod there. He passed Parker Anderson, everybody, to get the lead. On a restart, Parker Anderson used him up in 1 and 2. I mean, he just drove right off the side of him. He took the lead. They come down the back straightaway. They get through turn 3, and Kyle Jeanette drives into his left rear and spins him out. Retaliating is fine. In fact, I kind of like it, right? Okay, I kind of like it. But, dude, if you're going to retaliate and hit somebody back, you got to, make sure you screw him over worse than you screw yourself over, because all he did is spun him in the infield. He got himself put to the back, race over, right? So if you're a racer watching this and you're going to retaliate, here's a couple ways to do it, okay? because I kind of like retaliating. It's fun. It gives us something to talk about. I enjoy it thoroughly. It's highly entertaining. Okay. Number one, you aim for his left rear tire and you try to like knock the tire right off the wheel. Okay. Like don't hit him square in the left rear tire. Give him a flat. Okay. Because that way he's not finishing. You can get DQ'd, but he ain't finishing. You accomplish what you want. Stuff him in the wall. Okay. Get next to him and just park him right in the fence. Okay. I'm not saying I condone trying to hurt somebody, but if you're going to do it right. Okay. Or just wait and like you have an opportunity to pass him back and door swat him and take the lead back. Don't just love tap somebody in the left rear, right? And go, oh man, I got him back. Yo, yeah, you sure did. Good one, right? Dude, you got to be smarter than that. Reese Stenberg, another donkey award there. Reese Stenberg, he did the same thing. So, evident, if you race B mods enough, right? If you've been around B mod racing, Brock Grunwald has ruffled a feather or two. It just is what it is. He's fast. He's aggressive. He's not afraid to have some contact. He's opinionated. Brock is Brock. Just is what it is. Okay, I have no opinion on that whole deal. Okay, but with that said, he chucked the slider on Stenberg coming off of turn 2. In my eyes, on this particular one, he cleared him, not by much, but he cleared him, and Stenberg got right behind him, right under his bumper, and pushed him on the back straightaway, and proceeds to spin him out and drove himself into the wall opening at Fergus. Dude.
On the backstretch there?
On the backstretch. Yeah, and he wadded up a couple cars. He wrecked his. Donkey award. I mean, the jackass moves right there, okay? I mean, if you're going to hit somebody back, you got to wreck them, not yourself. Usually you kind of wreck yourself. It screws yourself over worse, but maybe there needs to be a class on the proper way of retaliation. I'm not sure, but, you know, it's like these guys are amateurs. They just don't understand how to properly retaliate. I mean, Puka, you were a hockey player. What usually happens when you retaliate?
Well, they'll retaliate. Well, you get a penalty, but, you know, when you get into the upper leagues, you retaliate, then you might have a fist in your face. So you better be ready. You better have your gloves loose and your stick barely holding on, and everything goes down. This reminds me of Days of Thunder. What did Russ Wheeler say? I'll put him on the wall. Simple as that.
Exactly. Now, with that said, if you retaliate and do it right, there might be fisticuffs afterwards. But again, do that on the front straightaway. Don't do that in the pit area. We want people to see it. Speaking of that, you know, and I was going to wait till we get to the woo stuff for that. So another one we have, and Bert brought this to my attention. I completely spaced it. So thanks for the reminder. Donkey Award again, another Jackass of the Week award goes to the teching officials with IMCA at the Dakota Classic Mod Tour. So just to preface this, and then I want you guys' take on it, Kyle Brown, he owns Harris Chassis. He got DQ'd. I don't know if he won or was in the top 5, but needless to say, he got DQ'd. What did he get DQ'd for? He has an IMCA, the crate motor is kind of the deal. They have a GM crate seals on it, but IMCA has separate seals on it, okay? Now, on the seals, right, it says specifically it's laid out in the rule book. It is very specific. If the seals are altered, you're disqualified, and it's a big fine. I mean, it was 10 grand. I think it was 10 grand in 30 days. Yeah. It was a legit fine. This is bullshit. Okay. It is. It is absolutely asinine. Okay. Now here's the deal. According to him, and there's no way of proving it. I'll take him for his word, whatever. But he said he bought the motor used for a spare, and then he heard his other motor, put this one in. Never thought to even looked at it. He figured it sealed up. He raced it. True, not true? I don't know. Okay. My point is this. Why not tear it apart? He asked the tech officials, take it apart. Take a look at it. Take it apart. Now, if they took that motor, they looked at it, and they said, okay, the seals are tampered with. If they were to take the engine apart and look at it, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, there's nothing wrong with this motor. It's perfectly legal. DQ him from the race, okay? He can still be DQ'd for having seals messed with. That's fine. But if they look at it, there's no reason for a $10,000 fine, 30-day suspension if it's actually legal. Now, if they took it apart and looked at it, and all of a sudden it's like, well, clearly this thing's been messed with, throw the book at them. $10,000 fine, 30-day suspension. That's all great. But they would not even take the time, guys, to even take the motor apart to see if it was legal. That is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my entire. It literally pissed me off when I saw that. I was arguing with a guy on Facebook who's definitely kind of hobnobbing on the IMCA people. It just is what it is. But it was just, that guy's an idiot, so that's just him. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think on that? I mean, does that logically make any sense to you?
I mean, what I read and based on the interview that I saw of Kyle Brown, I'm not exactly sure what was wrong with the seals. I just heard that they looked funny, whatever funny means. But yes, I believe a $10,000 fine is pretty excessive. If you're not even sure if the motor's illegal or not, you don't even know if it was tampered with, if the motor was tampered with. The thing that not a funny thing, but the thing that popped into my mind when I was watching the interview, because Kyle Brown said, he told him, just tear it down. I mean, but, he said he bought the motor and he didn't do it. He never really paid attention to the seals and this and that. So if he's being true to his word, he doesn't know if it's legal or not, but he's assuming that it's legal. But yeah, I mean, tear it down. If I agree with you, if it is found to be tampered with and illegal, and then throw the big fine at him. But a $10,000 fine just because the seals look funny or the seals were tampered with, that's pretty excessive. I mean, in his interview, he actually said that, he can't afford to pay that. So he's not going to be racing, even after his 30-day suspension, he's not going to be racing IMCA shows that, he's going to be looking at possibly racing in some USMTS races. Okay. So why are you trying to turn drivers away from your organization?
Yeah, and IMCA don't hurt. The tracks hurt, the series hurt, or not the series, but the tracks hurt, the fans hurt. Them are the ones that get hurt in this deal. It's just no logic there. Puka, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, when I saw it, is that IMC's kind of a rule, not just the rule for the driver, but also the rule for the track saying, look, we're IMCA, we're going to make it easy on your tech guys. You find the seal, don't go any further. We don't want you there. I mean, I don't know how long does it take to tear down an engine? An hour and a half?
Yeah, it takes a little while.
So I'm just wondering if IMCA kind of has a thing where, hey, just don't do it. This is the rule book. If they can't follow it, and I'm pushing. I mean, I'm on his side, but I'm just wondering if that's kind of the thing with IMCA. Be IMCA and make your tech guys' life easy.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's something to that, right? I'm sure that's a part of it. And that is the devil's advocate, so I can see that side of it for sure. But again, if you're a $10,000 fine and a 30-day suspension is a lot. Okay, that's a lot. So if you're gonna do that, the penalty has to fit the crime. And he said he took that engine in from a customer on a trade deal, which is probably true. I don't have any reason I don't know the dude at all, but. Yeah, I mean, it brings me back. Remember the old 6-cylinders up at Hibbing? Did you have Mrs. Jenko as a teacher?
Yes, I did.
You did. All right. So you're too younger than me. I remember this was in beginning of school year. I was in third grade. I'll never forget it. I was in third grade. I walk into Mrs. Jenko's class, and she says, "You got to go sit in the hall." I'm like, I just got here. Like, well, what are you talking about? She's like, "Nope, you got to go sit in the hall. Your dad disqualified Brad Hansen and Jenko's off sale liquor to Brad. You got to go sit in the hall." I'm like, oh, wait, what? What happened? Well, back then they had on the 6-cylinders, they had seals on them, right? And my dad got wind of it because he was a tech guy that there were several people that made their own seals. There was a certain gentleman in Keewatin that may or may not sponsor several race cars that was making these seals and doing engine work for people, okay? And word got out that these seals were not legit, right? So at the end of the night, but I think it was the last regular night of the year, must have been because school was in session, he says, top 10 all got to come apart. And there was like 6 of them that were all illegal. They all had like illegal seals on it, but he took it apart and they all lost their points and all that. And so the seal deal is a mirage, right? You can look at it, but if you're good enough at making seals, you can make it look like a legit seal. You still got to tear the motor apart. I mean, come on, So let's get into a little bit of last week's action on a national scene. Lucas Oil late models, of course, Mother Nature's been just absolutely kicking ass. I mean, 2 out of the 3 wins this weekend for Mother Nature. And night number 3, of course, JD got the win. What did you guys watch the Lucas Oil race this past weekend on Saturday?
Yeah, I checked it out. Nothing really stuck out other than we talked about Bronson a couple of weeks ago, another top 5. He's been stringing under some pretty decent runs. But how about James Essick and the Sound? The last few races they've done have been very bad. Did you notice that, Ryan? The sound is just not. It's crackly. It just. I don't know if they're even using microphones. I don't know, but the sound of James Essex and the other guy just isn't up to par right now.
Huh, interesting. I'll have to take a look at that. One thing I noticed in the feature, did you see the deal with Jimmy Owens?
Yes, the lap car.
Yeah, he was battling up there, lap cars in front of him. I don't know what he was thinking. The lap car didn't change lanes. He literally was side by side. I don't know if he was watching the guy next to him or what, and he just absolutely ass-packed. I don't remember who it was. He just drove straight. I mean, it was square in the back. I mean, it wasn't like the guy slid up, and then Owens swerved at him after that deal and all that, tried to spray mud on him. It's like, you're struggling. Jimmy Owens don't typically act that way, right? He's usually pretty calm. I think he's starting to get like beyond frustrated, right? Because he's having a horrible year. I mean, as dominant as he was last year, I mean, he ain't even in the top 10 in Lucas Oil points.
That's crazy. And I think was he my pick last week? I think I picked him. He's got a ton of Diamond Nationals wins too.
Right. So I mean, I can see him turning it around, but I mean, when you're having a terrible year and then you just ass pat the lapper and then you're mad at the lapper and it's like, all right, Jimmy, maybe you just need to go on vacation for a week, take a little time off. This ain't the week to do it. A lot of money on the line this week. We'll talk about that. But man, that was an interesting deal there. Now, the Hell Tour, anything stick out to you guys from the Hell Tour races this past weekend?
I watched a few of those races, and I can't remember the race, but one thing that, I mean, obviously Bobby Pierce is leading that deal, and he posted on Facebook that he is going to follow the entire tour because he's going for the championship. But there was a race last week where he didn't win the race, but 90% of the camera time was on Bobby Pierce because he was pounding the cushion up by the wall the entire time.
Yeah, Ashton Winger won that one, I believe. And I don't remember what track it was at, but man, he was fun. And it was boxed in, right? There was cars, there were 2-3 wide in front of him, and he was going high, low, sliding, crossover. I mean, again, like Troy Powers posted, he goes, I don't know if I'd want to race against this guy, but I'm hearing he is highly entertaining, and he is. I mean, he's fun to watch. And, it's too bad he can't go down the I-80, but I think it's the right decision for him. They're leading the Hell Tour. He's looking to win that series again. Why not? He's going to make a lot of money on that deal. He's a heavy favorite to win most of them. So it'll be a loss for I-80, but they're still going to get plenty of cars, but it's a huge gain for the Summer Nationals.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the Lucas real quick. T-Max has a 150-point lead over JD. Let's turn over to the Hell Tour here. It's 115 for Bobby Pierce over Tanner English. Pierce was obviously the highlight for another week. I just wanted to shout out to Circle City on Wednesday night. 10 different states represented. Promoters, did you hear what I just said? 10 states represented. That'll get you done. That's how you promote. That was exciting. And I was just looking at the points deal a little bit as far as pay. If you complete Pierce, I don't think he's going to be able to get all 36 in, right? Because did he miss one already or two? But if 33 races in.
Yeah, he might have missed one or two, maybe.
Yeah, I think he missed one or two. So if you get 33 races in, it's 33 grand for the points. 34 races, 34 grand, 35 races, 35 grand, 36 races would be a $36,000 points championship. So a pretty good deal there. And I, speaking of promoting, I think some of these races, up here, somebody like a Hibbing, somebody like a Grander, some of these smaller tracks, World of Outlaw event, 10,000 to win, 6,000 for second, 1,000 to start. I was looking at the pay for these Hell Tour races, 5,000 to win, 2,500 for second, only 500 to start. I mean, and let's face it, they're damn exciting. I don't think you're getting, double the entertainment out of World of Outlaw late model race versus a Summer Nationals race. I think some of these tracks up in this area should start looking at that versus the World of Outlaw late models because they're racing night for night, pound for pound. I don't think there's anything better than that Summer Nationals.
Yeah, but I don't think them guys are going to travel up here. So I think that's a totally different deal. So they got what makes it work is all the tracks they go to. they already have open late models. So they're bringing in their X amount of drivers. I don't know if it's 8, 10 or whatever. They're not bringing in really much more than the World of Outlaws, if they're bringing in more than the World of Outlaws. I don't know the exact numbers, but everywhere they go, they're already open late models there, right? So that's, again, WISSOTA's on an island, our whole area. And it's not just for WISSOTA, it's for our World of Outlaw races, Lucas races that are in the area. They're coming in and they're racing against so-called limited late models. And a few of the guys ran well, but the fact is it's not the same. I mean, you're not on, it's apples to oranges. You're not on the same equipment. That's the late model racing in Illinois is really good. I mean, they got really good core group of drivers. I don't think they would travel to our area. I really don't, for that $5,000 to win. I don't think they'd even travel up there for $10,000 to win. So,
I'm just wondering if they strung it together, though. They basically have to go to LaSalle and then go to wherever, whatever just north of there, maybe on the eastern side there, Bert, whatever the next track is, or what's that sprint car track they just raced at?
Beaver Dam.
Yeah, Beaver Dam, and then maybe I'll come up and I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing darts, but it's like
it could work on that side. I think it'd work on that.
Yeah, and then because I know, like I said, I know there was a year Rice Lake had him, but then again, they only had him 1 year. I know there was a year Ashland had him, and this was in the 90s, but they only had him 1 year. But I just wonder, and then I wonder if you put a little circuit together with their pretty cool tire rule, 3 a night? Is that what it is? Then maybe it was what guy says, well, geez, maybe I will cough up the money because I can race here tonight and I can go 2 hours down the road and race and go 3 hours down the road. I can at least get a few shows out of it that are, I'm not going, look at this World of Outlaw swing. I mean, Superior to Grand Forks to Fergus, all the way to Rice Lake. There's quite a few miles in there. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there, but
I don't
dollar for dollar a good value.
Yeah, I don't think the Hell Tour would be the answer. I don't, just because we don't have them late models. That's the whole difference. I mean, if WISSOTA transitioned over and they had an open late model rule package to where even if they had to put restrictor plates, like try this, and I think they need to try it again. But if they had that, and all of a sudden you got a whole bunch of guys that are on the open engines, right? Now I think you can start looking at a little bit different deal, because when they come to town, it's like, hey, we're on an even playing field. But this whole, well, let's talk about that next. Let's go to the World of Outlaws, right? So there was 4 races up there. You mentioned the tracks they were just at. And quite honestly, it was, in my opinion, it was fairly entertaining racing. I thought it was pretty good all 4 nights. What's your overall thoughts on that? What's some takeaways that you have? I mean, you can give a quick recap on who won if you want. Just why don't you guys give your take on the 4 World of Outlaw races that were in the area, and then I'll just touch a little bit on the end.
Well, I watched all 4, and I agree with you. I thought all 4 races were very entertaining. I think probably the least entertaining one was the I-94 race, but I mean, that was still a good race. I mean, there seemed to be a lot of side-by-side battles, some things that stick out. I mean, it was good to see Frank Heckenast win, to see a non-regular win. I always like that. Cade Dillard had some good runs going. He missed the Superior race. So Jimmy Mars was number 97, which was a weird deal. I'm not exactly sure what the rule is. Maybe and you can explain it a little bit more. But when Dillard did race, he had some really good shows. And I mean, overall, I thought it was very good racing, and Bishop got 2 wins. So he's starting to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of echo what person. I thought it was pretty great. Now, Godnick, I was there. I went in the pits. As a matter of fact, fans, I have an interview I did with Steve Larson after his heat race, which was very exciting. It's on YouTube only. We're going to be, as we do more trackside stuff, we're going to be doing more YouTube stuff. So not now. Don't do it now. But after the show, just scroll down. There's the YouTube link. You can subscribe. Our next show on YouTube, just jump on there. But a very excited Steve Larson. When the World of Outlaws comes to town, I like to see some of that David versus Goliath stuff. We saw Larson end up with the pole because he made it into the dash, passing Weiss late in the race to get into the redraw. We saw Kanta passing B1 bomber Brent Larson, who we talked about hoping that he'd rebound. He actually had fast time that night. Performed okay. I think he ended up being like a top 10 car. So I ended up in the pits because I got there early enough. They charged the same to get in the pits, which I thought was kind of odd. So I thought, well, what the heck? I got the time. I was able to roll him around. G.O.A.T was a top finisher, a 5th place finish there in Superior. Yeah, the team point deal with Jimmy Mars putting the 97 on the car. Great crowd in Superior that night. Grand Forks, it was a good night for the Mars cars with Sang and Dillard, and Mars was 2nd, Sang 7th, Dillard 4th. So I thought that was pretty good for them. Madden was kind of out to lunch on that race. I-94, I agree. The big takeaway there, I got Dorr was the hard charger. He passed 11 cars that night. And then last night, Demo was back in Chad Olson's car, the 10C, and he was a top 5 car for a while there. I think one of those late cautions, he faded just a little bit, but a pretty good run for him. So what'd you see, Ryan?
I thought it was pretty cool. Kyle Hammer came up. He ran the last 3 shows. I actually was in Alexandria over at a buddy's house, and Kyle Hammer, who actually ran mods, he actually hadn't run a late model all year. He brought the late model up, and they ran, Grand Forks, Fergus Falls, and Menominee. He got a top 10. He got 10th over at Menominee, so he started to kind of he had all kinds of troubles the first night. So that was kind of cool. Got to meet those guys. Don Hammer used to own Farmer City. I think he ran Farmer City. He owned Lincoln, so I had some pretty cool stories. And, if you check him out on Facebook, he's just a little guy. You don't want to mess with him. He's talking about some stories, where people hit him after the race. He's like, I'm here to tell you, somebody hits my car after the race, I'm going to knock their teeth out. Like, literally, it's like, so don't mess with Kyle Hammer, because Don Hammer is really big, and I think he can be kind of ornery, so steer clear of that one for sure. But it was pretty cool to meet those guys. I'm actually going to go to the Prairie Dirt Classic at Fairbury, and I'll be hanging out with them guys a little bit down there, so I'm looking forward to that here on my birthday weekend, so pretty excited for that. Did you guys happen to see in Fergus Falls, Madden just unleashed on Tyler Bruning at the end of the race? Did you see that? Oh, man. So during the race, and I watched back, and it didn't really show it, and I think there was just a little contact at the end. Now, let's be honest, about 10 to go, Madden used up Brandon Shepard and drove off the side of him to pass him. So at the end of the race, and it's on Facebook, you can find it, Madden was in the infield, literally screaming at the top of his lungs, pointing and just hollering at Tyler Bruning. I mean, Bruning got out of his car, and, he's like, you can tell you wanted to punch him. I mean, he went absolutely, mental. And I'm watching that, and I watched it back, and I texted a few buddies. I'm like, what happened? They're like, well, there might have been a little contact at the end, but it didn't seem like it was a big deal. Is Madden starting to get frustrated again because he's not competing at the level that he was competing at earlier in the year? He seems to jump ship every year, right? He's in a different ride all the time. Is it about time where maybe you can see him having a meltdown and quitting for the year and jumping in somebody else's car again? I mean, is that normal for him?
Well, it's only an 88-point lead, so it's nothing insurmountable, although we, like Bert just said, Bishop had 2 wins, so he's definitely heating up. But, yeah, when is the last time he's had a win? I mean, he had a podium. I was in the teching area. Well, by the way, the scales didn't work in Superior. I talked to Dennis Erb. He said there was something going on with the scales. But, and Madden was very calm walking around. He was a podium last night because he got the interview. He said, love the tracks. He said the whole swing, the track's been, track prep's been great.
He said that after Menominee?
He said that last night, in the interview.
He didn't say that after the heat race.
No, he said after the – they said it was narrow at first, but the track, ended up. What happened in the heat race?
Oh, he was bitching about the track. Places that Joe. Yeah, he was. So it's. I think he's bipolar, maybe, or something. I'm not really sure because they talked to him after the heat race, and he's like, "This place sucks." And he's ripping on the track, this is terrible because the heats were not good, the first couple anyway. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the night, he's like, "Oh, the track's pretty good." It's like this guy's kind of over the map. I'm not really sure how to take this guy at all.
Yeah, and I think he's a self-funded team, right? I mean, he's not racing for somebody, is he?
Brother.
Or his brother, yeah. So basically, it's a self-funded.
It's self-funded.
Because when you're not winning, it's not even not only the confidence thing, but there's, like I said, first place in the World of Outlaw race, $10,000. Second place is all the way to 6. And I think it's 4 for third. There's a big gap when you're going up and down the road and you're not winning. Like I said, I don't know when the last time. Maybe in May? I mean, I can't think of the last time he's won. Like I said, he's getting some podiums, but he's just not in the winner's circle.
No. And we can look that. Maybe you can look that up on your phone. I got my notes on mine, but look up just Chris Madden Racing. See if you can look back to see when his last win is. It feels like it's been a while. And maybe that's why he's starting to get in that meltdown mode. You talked about Cade Dillard. Of course, he missed the first night, which was Tuesday at Gondiclaw Speedway. He was in the hospital. Not really sure what the deal was because obviously he finished off the series, but Jimmy Mars had a 97 on his car. And I'm like, well, how does this work? It was an owner points deal. It's more for the provisional side of things. From what I understand, he doesn't get actual driver points towards a championship. It's more towards the provisionals and that type of deal, and kind of staying on track. So kind of cool of Jimmy Mars to do that, really, because he didn't really need to. He could have just said, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm here to race. Well, putting that 97, of course, Dillard's in an MB. That's another example, I guess, of Jimmy taking care of his customers. I mean, hell, he gave Jody Belfi an engine to use, and he won the border battle here just recently. So it looks to me like if you're in that inner circle in MB, they're going to take pretty good care of you.
What was the deal with Winger racing Sam Mar's car last night?
So he didn't run it. He didn't run it the whole night. Did he? He ran it. Did he run it?
I don't know. I just saw a picture that said Wingers in Sam's car.
Yeah. I believe in the heat he grenaded a motor.
Okay.
Then he jumped into Sam Mars's.
Yeah, because Sam put it in the wall. That's the only heat race I saw. I was at the lake and I forgot about I turned it on. It was the last heat. Sam put it in the wall, but I didn't even notice Winger in the Mars car. But Madden's last win, he swept the Port Royal weekend, May 23rd. So that's got to be the last wins. We're 2 months. We're 60 days in.
Well, there you go. You can see the frustration brewing. So there's something to that. So out of them 4 races, which one would you say that was to you the most entertaining of the 4?
I would say the second one, the one that Herb won. Him and Jimmy Mars had a pretty good side-by-side battle. Lap traffic kind of got in Jimmy's way a little bit, but I still think Herb had the stronger car.
Yeah, it's hard to beat Grand Forks. That's one of probably my second or even first, I don't know, favorite track. But yeah, they just do a great job there. And that they said that promoters again, if you're building a track, we talked about it last week, Thunder Bay, err on the side of going a little smaller but a little longer, because fantastic racing in a short track, just like we talked about Macon last week. The 1/5 mile 100 lap racing was fantastic. How about you, Ray?
I'm going to go with River Cities as well. What stuck out to me is the racing there for the better part of the year ain't been very good at all. Like it's been traditionally it's good, but it's really been kind of one lane, Marv lane, no passing. The track has been really bad all year long. And I'm going to give them an A+ because, it was a really good program there at the World of Outlaw. So they really stepped it up. It sounds like they had like 3,800 fans, which they get like 2,000 on a regular night. And I also want to give a tip of the cap to them over at the Gondiclaw Speedway in Superior, because last year it was like laughable bad. It was so bad. And they went out and bought equipment, and this year 100 times better. It was like 2 completely different facilities. So I think they did a pretty good job over. It's a very great finish there too. Actually, Madden almost won that one. Speaking of he was dang close. He got inside of Shepherd at the end there, and made it a pretty exciting finish. So I think a lot better race program at Superior this year than the year before.
Yeah. I think Madden, if he really would have wanted to, he could have. If he would have been willing to bend a little sheet metal, he could have won that on Shepherd. But I think they're both in Rockets. They were parked right next to each other, of course, and said, you got to race them the next night, so you're not going to necessarily use them up. But yeah, no, it was a good finish. And I said, I almost put Madden on the cold list, but you can't quite put him on the who's not, because he is getting the podiums. But man, 60 days from his last win.
Right. So actually, I got to look at this. So let's get to this here. So we got the World of Outlaw sprint cars, right? So we'll jump into some buggies for our buddy Keith. They raced in Attica. That was a pretty good race. The young guy won that. But then they had the main deal was Eldora. They had the Kings Royal. Last year's Kings Royal, this year's Kings Royal. They had a pair of 10 grand to win shows, which Carson Macedo won both of those. I think he would have rather had one of the other ones, right? Because they were both 175,000 to win. Did you guys watch any of the World of Outlaw sprint cars?
I watched some of the highlights of the 2 big shows.
What stuck out?
Well, Brad Sweet getting a flat tire in one of the races with, what was it, 10 laps to go?
Yeah, and that was my pick in that one. So yeah, of course.
And that was a race that who won? It was a lesser known driver won that race.
Sunshine Tyler Courtney.
Yeah, and he was a USAC guy last several years, right?
So I'm going to look this up here while you're talking about that, because I do have our buddy Jeff sent me he sent me a little something on this one. It was kind of a cool little stat. So what stuck out to you from that event?
Yeah, well, of course, they're daytime racing, so the first, 10, 15 laps, complete dust. Like, you could hardly see the cars. I don't know how they were racing at such high speeds, but with those big sprint car tires, after I think there was a caution about midway or something, then they had laid down so much black, like all the dust, all the dust went away literally, but you could see the cars again, but just how fast. Of course, it's daytime too. It's probably 90 degrees. It's 90 degrees in northern Minnesota. I'm sure it's 90 degrees in central Ohio. So just the way they laid down the black so fast. One thing I saw was Kenny Jacobs, a guy that, has some history to Hibbing, Ryan, the old sprint car racer, when he raced for Dan Motter, he was the guy that knighted the king, Courtney. So he was the guy that was in victory lane there. So I thought that was pretty cool. Jack Hottenchild, not the kid, not Sheldon. Jack won a heat race in the second go around on the 37th annual on Saturday night. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then just, our buddy Shots, we had high hopes and backpedaled in both shows, just no momentum after that win about a month. Well, I guess that's been a month ago now.
So Tyler Courtney won the first one, and Kyle Larson got the whole front half ripped off his car in the first one, right? And they completely yard sailed that thing, put it back together. Then he went out and he came from the fifth row to win the second one. Both of them $175,000 to win. Now, both winners of the King's Royals have an astounding attribute in common. Okay, this is from Jeff. They both won races at Eldora in 4 different forms of open wheel cars. Wing sprint car, non-wing sprint car, midget, and silver crown. That's pretty cool. So both drivers did that. So that's kind of a pretty neat stat there. Our buddy Jeff, our tech support there, coming up with some pretty cool info. Now, did you happen to see, did you stop watching the race right at the end, or did you watch like going across the scales and all that type of stuff?
You're talking about race number 1.
I am. So 1,425 pounds is the weight limit at the end of the race for a World of Outlaw sprint car. Race gets done. Now we're talking $175,000 to win. It's a big deal. David Gravel just about, he closed the door on Courtney and didn't quite get there, okay? But he made it to the scales first. He rolls across the scales, 1,421, light, 4 pounds. Tyler Courtney's eyes get about that big. He's like, oh, shit, right? Because, there were some yellows, and it took a while, right? Let's face it, 1,425 pounds, there's not a lot of wiggle room. He gets on the scales, 1,429.
Oh. 4 pounds under and 4 pounds over.
Yeah. So can you imagine if Gravel actually would have passed him, the emotions, right? And passed him, jubilant, 175 grand, and light at the scales. That's like a Scott Bloomquist type deal, if you ask me.
Yeah, those Eldora scales, they've bitten a lot of people at the big shows, boy.
They have.
Yeah, I was at the race where it bit Shannon Babb.
Really? Yeah. So I texted my buddy Jeff Krause. I said, half miles are stupid. I didn't this ain't even gonna be entertaining. I kind of got to eat crow because both features were actually pretty good. The sprint cars really put on a good show over there. So with that said, let's get into some who's hot and who's.
Hold on, I got one more thing. Now in that second feature, we've talked a lot on here about no fault cautions and that sort of thing. I just watched the highlights, so I saw Brad Sweet spin, but then they cut out the audio before they could explain what happened. Where did they put him?
So he was up in the top 3 somewhere when he got in the back of somebody and he spun, but then he stood on it and he did a 360 and he kept going. And just as he got straightened out, boom, the yellow flag comes out. They didn't really need it because he kept going. Now, the yellow technically came out for Brad Sweet. So in typical racing, it's like Brad Sweet going to the back. But they have what's called the blend rule, okay? And what that means is if they wouldn't have thrown the yellow just by watching it, just kind of by an opinion, an eye test, where would he have maybe been if they would have just stayed green? And I think they put him back in either 9th or 11th on that deal. And just another one of those weird deals, right? They'll put you to the back for being late to staging. You spin out, you keep going, the yellow's for you, and they give you kind of your spot back. Kind of some weird stuff. But I guess they did jump the gun, though. They didn't really need to throw a yellow flag on that because he did a hell of a job keeping going in that deal. But it would have been really cool if he would have kept going and then worked his way back up to a podium or something like that. He was kind of a non-factor after that, just kind of outside the top 5, I think.
Yeah. But well, that was McFadden that hit him, so that's his teammate. He was pretty salty with him. You saw him pull up, but McFadden actually hit the wall and bounced off the wall. That's so you know where to go. And then he ended up hitting Sweet, and that's how the contact went. But yeah, they're both Casey Kane Racing teammates.
Right, for sure. I think that was for second. Was that second and third at the time?
Yes, they're right there. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So let's get into some who's hot and who's not. Of course, brought to you by our friends Puka over at L&M Radiator. Why don't you tell these folks a little bit about L&M Radiator?
Yeah, we've been talking to you about them for a few weeks, and they're still looking. They're on the lookout. So if you need a job, your brother-in-law's been bitching, he needs a job. Your cousin's friend's sister's uncle needs a job. Mesabi.com. Just click below on the link, mesabi.mesabi.com. Here's what they offer. Competitive wages, full benefit package that includes health care, dental, vision, life and disability insurance, 401k, profit sharing, production bonuses, pay time off, and holiday pay. The benefits start after 30 days, pay time off after 90 days. Ryan and I both know people that made long careers there, work where you play. Hibbing Racing is just a mile away. You come up, get a great job, enjoy the races every Saturday night at the Hibbing Racing, mesabi.com. Check out L&M Radiator.
Absolutely. So, guys, who do you have on? Let's start with you. Who's hot?
I have Ashton Winger. He's won a couple of Hell Tour races over the last week, so give him some props. We've ripped on Bishop a lot this year, so we got to give him some props when he's doing well and winning 2 out of the 4 races in the Northern Swing. That's pretty good. And we haven't talked about this driver a lot lately, but Brandon Overton quietly won a 20,000 to win show over the weekend.
Where was that at? Where was that?
I can't remember where it was. It was one of those Southern National races or something like that.
Okay. Puka, who do you got?
Yeah, well, Dennis Erb, we've been talking about him. He's picked up a few wins over the last couple of weeks. He won one in Jackson. He got the one out in Grand Forks, so he's he's heating up, like I said, right kind of at the right time here as they get into some of the crown jewel season here a little bit. I agree with Bert. Bishop's coming on. We dogged Bishop. He was on the cold list. Who's not for quite a few weeks here. He won his 73rd World of Outlaw race last night. It would be 2 nights after this is posted. So on Sunday night at Red Cedars, one behind now, Darrell Lanigan, who's a 3-time champ. And then even Frankie Heckenast, winning down in Jackson the previous week and now winning at Fergus on Saturday night. There's something there, a young guy. And again, heating up at the right time, whether he decides to go and go out to I-80 and follow some of that, or if he ends up hooking up because he's been a perennial Summer Nationals guy too. I think I kind of like him here going forward. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, he's had an impressive couple weeks. So I'm going to start with Bishop. I think he's kind of the popular one here. In some notes that I have, last 9 races, 8 podiums, 4 wins, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and then he's got a 5th in there. So not only does he have 4 wins in the last 9, he's been up front kind of hunting. So maybe he's kind of turning the corner. He still doesn't have that like rocket ship, like he doesn't have that lights out speed like he did, but there's something there. Maybe he's getting some momentum. Another guy I have, I'm keeping Tony Leiper on the list. He's got 9 in a row out in Wyoming, 14 wins, 4 seconds in 8 races. I mean, that's about as close to perfect as you get. And then Kevin Burdick, he just won another $5,000 to win race in the Super Stocks. There's only 2, right? He won $5,074 at Menominee. That was at the Dave Shackleton Memorial. The Month of Money race at Cedar Lake, he was $5,000 to win there. Guys, he's got 8 of his last 9. And he is driving away in the win count right now, currently leading the Wissota National points, and he's your reigning champ in the Fastlane Superstock Series is coming up. So Kevin Burdick, red hot in 30. Now, who's not? Bert, who's not?
Well, you guys talked about him earlier in the show. Jimmy Owens, I'll put him on there. Every week we talk about Ricky Weiss. I mean, he started on the pole in Menominee, but I'm not even sure where he finished. I'm gonna probably doesn't deserve to be on the not hot list because he's had a really good year. But Brad Sweet, I'm sure this wasn't the week that he was expecting down in Eldora, so I'll put him on there just because of that.
Yeah, he has to be awfully disappointed for sure. Puka, who do you have?
Yeah, I got a few drivers here, and then I have a statement. But Tyler Erb, Lucas, again, don't even hear his name. Josh Richards, I think he was close to a podium for a while there. Just can't seem to get things figured out there. And Devin Van House, a little bit more locally. Now, Devin Van House, I believe, was in our power rankings at least part of the season last year. I don't know if you remember, Ryan. But, this is a guy that coming into the year, I would have expected 3 to 5 wins. I don't know, does he even have one? I mean, and he's not, it seems like he's kind of a fifth, at least the last few weeks, like a fifth place and backward car. Something ain't wrong with, or ain't right with Team Longhorn there.
Yeah, I think he's got one, and I don't know that he made the power rankings last year because he had a really good year the year before his rookie season. And then at the end of the year, he kind of decided I'm going after the rookie points, and he kind of lost focus a little bit on local stuff. Last year, he kind of had a little bit of a sophomore slump. He's not, and then this year, he's just kind of he's there, but he's not there. So I have all somewhat local guys in mind. I got Tristan LaBarge. Okay, super stock driver, 2 track championships last year and several feature wins. Not only is he's just been non-existent. I mean, he's barely even at the racetrack. I don't know what's going on with him, right? I know he built a couple cars. I kind of predicted this was going to be the guy that was going to, be a thorn in the side of Kevin Burdick, who I just mentioned, because he's a good racer, but I don't know what the hell he's been up to. So Tristan LaBarge, come on, man. Johnny Broking, he stays on the list. I mean, 5-car feature, he still couldn't win. Now, in his defense, he got hung up on a restart. Dad was outside pole, drove away. He got hung up behind a couple slower cars on a restart. But I don't know. I mean, like literally, I expect the 45J to be a front runner. I expect him to be a podium guy. They got a great program. I don't know if they got a lack of focus. I'm not sure what's going on there, but like they just have not been what I expected all year long. And until proven otherwise, I mean, he's definitely on the list. I know there's Advantage RV Mod Tour stuff coming up. You're going to have to, we need some podiums out of the 45J.
Yeah, and I just want to say something, not a racer, but most of you saw the numbers last night at Helverlines and Proctor as far as car counts. Last night was the AFCO Race of Champions qualifier night, and we talked about this earlier in the year. Are they getting the word out, not only to fans, or for the fans, they should kind of make it a big deal, and then even to the racers, what'd you say, 5 mods? I mean, who doesn't want to go to, if you're already going to Huron, or excuse me, Fergus, do you not want to race another race? And even the late model count was 9? It's just like Daryl Nelson wasn't there with either car. It's like, what is
Proctor all year?
Yeah, it's like, what are they not doing here? I mean, maybe they just got to go back to the old system and just say, hey, the points champions are in, because it doesn't seem to be doing anything for promoters to have an individual night where you qualify.
Yeah, I mean, and let's face it, the Race of Champions ain't what it used to be. I think it's like the mods, I believe it was like 1,600 to win, which is okay. It was like 400 for second, right? So, it's literally, if you're not in the top 3, half the guys just pull off. So they got to make it more special. We'll talk a little bit more about some of this in just a couple of minutes, but yeah, you're exactly right. It's just not promoted. They literally do not promote the Race of Champions. And then I got Dustin Strang. He's having a terrible year, and it just continues, right? So he went to the USMTS race earlier this past week in Watertown. He ran good. He was on I think he might have got 3rd. If he wasn't 3rd, he was in the top 5 for sure. I'd have to look back to see where he finished. He goes across tech, disqualified. Okay. Now, what he got disqualified for is the MSD box. You got some of them have a dial where you can set your rev limiter. His was an older one where you plug in a chip. In the chip, it's like, I don't remember exactly what the number was, but let's say whatever the chip was, it can't go past that. They have a tool to check it. Now, an interesting deal. People are like, oh, did he have a cheated up box? No, he never cheated up box. Like literally the tech guy, you can verify this with USMTS. They checked it, it didn't work. They wiggled the chip and then it worked. Then they wiggled the chip and it didn't work. And then they wiggled the chip and it worked again. And the tech guy's like, I don't know, I'm going to let Todd Staley make the call, who is actually, he promotes the USMTS. And they said, well, there's no way to tell that if it was actually working or not working. It didn't work when we first checked it. You're disqualified. It's like, good grief. I mean, there's a difference between flat out cheating and having a faulty part. But, it is what it is. He's like, I'll take it on the chin. It is what it is. I guess I'll just have to replace the box. He was disappointed. And it's just one of those deals. But he's been struggling so bad. He was so good last year that, remember last year, what did he get, like 4th or something in the World of Outlaw race?
Yeah.
he wasn't even there this time. He wasn't even there. He's like, screw it. I'm taking a family vacation. I need to get away. I've been telling Savannah that I'll take a vacation every summer. I never do. What a perfect opportunity. I won't screw up my points. I'm just going to take the week off. Hopefully, the 71 can regroup after that and make something happen. So, with that said, our picks of the week from this past week, guys, this might be the first week ever that we all got at least one right. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, let's be honest. I mean, there were several opportunities. We got way more wrong than right, okay? But Keith and Bert, you each got 2 of them right. And Jeff, Pete, Puka, and myself, we each got 1. So the standings are as follows. I'm at 17, and Bert's nipping on my heels, 3 behind at 14. Jeff's at 12. Keith is up to 10. We picked on him pretty early. Puka's at 7, and Pete is kind of, yeah, you're bringing up the tail there for a lap down. You got 5. We got to get him going. And this week we're going to pick those 3 World of Outlaw sprint car races. Of course, there's several races down at I-80. Excited for that. We're going to pick those races. We'll put our picks up here on here. But if we put the money on the line, right? Sure bet. Who is your number 1 sure bet of the week?
Well, first, I just want to say I should get an extra point because my sure bet actually won last week.
Oh, bonus point.
Because Benji Lacrosse won the modified feature at the Eric Van Eyten Memorial last night with the last lap pass. Anyway, my sure bet is a mod guy will win the King of the Creek at 141 Speedway, the 10,000 to win IMCA stock car show.
Ooh, that's a big one. Money on the line.
Who's that?
I'm just saying a mod guy. It'll probably be Benji Lacrosse or Mike Mullen. Those are the 2 drivers I would.
All right. Okay. Now, if you had to pick one, though, gun to your head, which one you picking?
I would take Benji Lacrosse because he's raced a stock car more often this season. That would be the difference. Right.
So you got to make Ricky Lemon happy. You can't be picking. So there you go. So Puka, who do you got?
Well, the late models are rolling back into Got tomorrow night for the fair races already. Fair races in Superior. So I'm going with the Double One Express Pat Dorr. And when looking down at I-80, I would rather Tad Pospical than the young Andrew Koski and the Malvern Bank Series down there. How about you? Who you got?
I'd say that's a pretty good pick. I'm going to take Justin Vogel to win the Steffa Street Stock Tour race Thursday night at the KRA Speedway. He put a pretty cool slider on Parker Anderson to win night 1 at Fergus Falls. He won a lot of races at KRA. He won the big one at KRA. Of course, they had the Jeff, I think it was the Jeff Isdall Memorial. That was a big payday for him. So he got that one done. So the Wolverine, Justin Vogel at the KRA Speedway. So let's get to our next step here. That's our sure bets. I got one more sure bet there. So John Tardy keeps like jazzing me. He goes, "You guys suck at this. Like you guys never get your picks right." He goes, "My sure bet of the week on the Hell Tour for the mods is Nick Hoffman is going to win at the mods." He's like, "You can just put him down every single race." I think he's 13 for 13. So I think that's a pretty safe bet right there. The thrill from Mooresville, Nick Hoffman. So the last lap brought to you by Frank Zuli Race Engines. And they had a pile of wins again this weekend. I'm telling you, like more and more wins. Justin Pagonis got her done. Parker Anderson, Aaron Blacklands, Vogel, Billy Christ, Jake Knapper, Darren Lawler got a win in the B-Mods up in Grand Rapids. Upset Tyler Kittner. That's a Zuli Race Engine book. I don't know that. G.O.A.T got it done. So, get a hold of Frank. I mean, obviously, the stats speak for themselves. I mean, follow him on Facebook, Zuli Racing Engines. I mean, you see all the wins they're getting. I mean, if you can't beat him, join him. He'll take them care of you. So with that said, I mean, what do you guys have? What's happening over in Eastern Wisconsin? What else? What do you want to touch on from Eastern Wisconsin there, Bert?
I have a couple of things. First, I just want to say Justin Schmidt won his 4th feature in a row at Plymouth Dirt Track. So he's finding a groove at his home track. And then congratulations to everybody who was involved with the Eric Van Eyten Memorial Race last night at the Berg. Speedway in Luxembourg, Wisconsin. Van Eyten raced IMCA modifieds mostly, but he did race late models for a couple of years. And he passed away, I believe it was in January after battling cancer. So, you know, it's a tough deal, but it's good to see the racing community come out and support an event like this. 4 divisions, they had 210 cars for 4 divisions in a one-night show, 50 IMCA modifieds, 78 IMCA stock cars, 40 IMCA sport mods, and 42 street stocks. Huge crowd in the grandstand. I did not go to the event. I watched it on Flow Racing. If I would have gone to the event, I don't know if I would have found a place to sit. The people that I know who have been associated with that track for years and years said this was probably the largest crowd ever for a race. They compared it to a crowd for Def Leppard that played there back in the 90s or the 80s. So huge crowd, huge support for this event. Like I mentioned earlier, Benji Lacrosse won IMCA modified feature. The modified feature was the last race of the night, and with all those cars and all those races, the track was kind of used up by that point. So it was kind of a one-laner. But he made it work on the last lap. He kind of nudged the leader a little bit coming out of 2, and then they crossed the line side by side, and Benji won by inches. So that was a good race. The stock car feature was a good feature, but that they can kind of bounce off of each other. So, so there's a lot of passing in that race. The mods and stocks were originally going to race for $5,000 to win, but with extra sponsorship money, they were racing for at least $7,000 to win, and it may have been even more than that once they got the extra sponsorship money. And Jared Seifert, who races late models, he had his late model on display there, but he had it decked out like one of Van Eyten's late models, and then they had a silent auction for the 2 door panels and the 2 quarter panels. And they made the announcement during the broadcast that after the silent auctions for those panels were completed, they were adding an extra $13,000 to the purse. So those panels must have sold for a lot of money.
Wow. Hey, Steve, did either one of you see what the split the pot amount was at the King's Royal?
Boy, I heard it too.
Because they traditionally got some pretty big numbers over there too. That kind of spot.
17 grand was it at one point? This would have been first show. It was daytime. I thought I heard a number. I remember saying it to my wife. I can't remember. I didn't jot it down. I'm still waiting for that World 100.
That's pretty impressive. A lot of tracks don't even have split the pot, but you start looking at those numbers, you might want to rethink that.
I might need staying at your house the weekend of the World. I'm not going to go to the race, but I'm just going to get across the Ohio border so I can get online, and then I'll buzz back, just to win the pot there.
Right.
And this is where I was talking about when we were talking earlier in the show about is there too much racing? And I said, if it's a really special event, then I don't think there's too much racing. And I mean, last night's Van Eyten Memorial proved that if you put on a truly special event, the fans will come, the drivers will come, and it'll be a great event.
Well, I'll piggyback off of that, right? Because let's talk about special events. Now, when you say truly special, that's truly special, right? So Granite City Motor Park, they had a $2,000 to win mod special, which that's pretty good money. I mean, typically they get $500-600 to win on a regular night. 8 cars, 8. Now, why is that, right? Because it's not like the track's about the same as every other racetrack. I mean, some tracks are better, some tracks are worse, right? Why is there only 8? I didn't even know about it. I know that they put some posts on Facebook. I looked to make sure that they did, and I know it's been on their schedule, but I didn't even know about it, right? And I feel like I'm kind of in the loop. Well, if I didn't know about it, who else didn't know about it? Because, so a tip, if you're a promoter, right, and I can't stress this enough, the number one thing they're using, and Bert, we talked about this, they're like, wow, we're going to put some posts on Facebook. There's our advertising. That's our promoting. Okay, first of all, that's just weak. Okay, that don't work, right? But even if that's all you're going to do, you have to put a picture with the post. You can't just post words, because the way the algorithms work, nobody will see it. They don't spread it out enough. So you have to have pictures, a video, something attached to that for the algorithms to get it out to more people. Now, the other thing is there's only 250 mods total in WISSOTA. Get an email list. I don't care. Get them all on Messenger, whatever, and message them, text them, call them, promote, right? Get the word out. Because I'm here to tell you that I know who's in charge, but I don't know if he has somebody else in marketing there. I don't know. I don't know their situation. It's hard to get employees, so I'm guessing not, right? Today's day of age. But take some time and physically call these drivers, message and text them. I promise you, if they would have did that, they would have at least got a full field on it. I'm not saying they would have got 50, 60 cars, but I bet they would have had over 20. And that's really what it comes down to. So you can have these specials. You can throw money at it. I think Montevideo, they had like a 1,500. I think it was 1,500 to win mod show. They only had 9, right? Well, people don't know about it. You got to get a hold of people, let them know what's going on, invite them. And there's just not enough of that. The other flip side of this is the tire situation. I'll talk about that next, right? We got all kinds of specials coming up this week. I'll talk about that in my upcoming events, right? But the fact is, I got word from Hoosier, okay? Now we'll talk about the Hoosier tire shortage. This past week, guys, Hoosier Tire North got in, I believe it was 480 tires, okay, total. Like, and this covers street stocks, Midwest mods, super stocks, modifieds, they're all on the same tire. They got 480 total. All WISSOTA tracks have to get them from Hoosier Tire North. From what I understand is 16 of the higher end vendors that sell a pretty good amount of tires, they got 16 of them got 10 right rear tires and 20 of like the other 3, because the other 3 are typically the same. That's all they got. Now, I was told that this particular week, no more WISSOTA tires. They don't have any. They're not making any, okay? Now, the tires that came out, guys, they had less than 24 hours on them from when they finished production to when they went on the truck to get shipped. That means they didn't even cure. They're probably going to melt, right? I mean, there's no curing process. So I was told that next week they're going to get in 26.5s, which is your front tires and left rear tires, right? And it's not going to be till the first week of August is what I was told that they're going to have right rear tires in stock. Well, now you start talking about specials, weekly races, and all that. Drivers are going to be like, well, I have enough tires to go here and here, but I'm going to skip this one. It's not a good deal. So now you start factoring that in. And the other thing, should they be cutting laps, right? If we know there's a tire shortage and they can't get tires, should they go back down to, like, even for specials, go 8-lap heats, 20-lap features? I mean, what do you think?
Oh, they have to do something. I mean, the stock market got just creamed today, and it was all about this Delta virus. Because there's a lot of people thinking, hey, it might not be a government shutdown, but you know, there's CEOs that are out there that take this thing serious because they don't want to get sued. So there might be more layoffs or on hold or shuttering some production or going back to spacing, you know, and so that's going to slow everything down even more. So we're just starting like phase 2 of this, potentially a phase 2 of production shortages.
Zip it. We don't want to hear about any of that stuff.
I'm guessing that a lot of the drivers, well, not a lot, but some of the drivers who were racing at Bristol earlier this year probably wish that they wouldn't have just left their used tires that still had some life in them down there. We did a story on a driver from Wisconsin who races a sport mod, and he raced down at Bristol, and he said he brought a whole crap load of tires back with them that people just discarded because, you know, they raced a couple races on them. They didn't want to haul them, so they just left them down in Bristol. So they grabbed them and threw them in their trailer. And he's probably looking pretty good right now.
And therein lies the difference, right? You can do that with IMCA because they race all over the country. You can get these one-night old offs and run them. Right. With sodas in their own little world, they have specific with soda tires, so that wouldn't have worked for them. Any more last thoughts, shout-outs? I got a couple things that I'm going to mention quick.
Yeah, I do too. So just shout out to Blair Northdurft and Polly Parker for, we talked about dodging competition. I mean, Parker put a lot of miles on. He raced full swing with the Royal Outlaw late models. He came a long way from Eastern Wisconsin, and the Blair North Turf he ran up just a couple of nights. But he's down there in Renner, South Dakota. He's a long ways from Grand Forks, so he came up. A shout out to him. The Hibbing Raceway Hall of Fame inductees for this year, 2021. The race will be held on August 14th, or the induction ceremony. But Billy Engelstead, Debbie Caldwell, Jeff Hinkemeyer, Gary Grierson, Pete Wallers, and Harry Hansen. So again, August 14th there in Hibbing. And then I just got word right before the show that Canada is opening the border to fully vaccinated Americans. So there's no full reopening both ways, but Canadians will let you in starting August 9th, which bodes well for Thunder Bay up in Mosquito Speedway, because they normally, the same weekend as the 100s, they do that, I think it's $10,000 or $20,000 to win B-Mod race. So maybe they'll be able to get that back on the schedule for this year. So yeah, starting August 9th, fully vaccinated. If you want to go fishing or go racing, you can get back across the border.
Knock on wood on that one. Hopefully that works out. So Alex Williamson, we talked about him. He was in the power rankings earlier in the year. Then he just kind of cooled off. He got his first U.S. MTS mod win at Mod Wars, $10,000 to win. A low budget guy. He mentioned in Victory Lane, we put every dollar we have into our race program. And those U.S. MTS guys, we're talking big oil money behind some of these guys. So to see one of the David versus Goliath stories right here, a local guy getting her done on the big stage, girl power over at the Granite City Motor Park. We talked about Kennedy Swan, guys. I think she's 14 years old. She got first. Ashley Merwer second in the Midwest Mods over at Granite City. So showing the boys how it's done. And how about the legend himself, Tim McMahon, parking in Victory Lane over at the Halberline Speedway in Proctor. He seems to get one every year. This guy's won a lot of races in his career. And Race of Champions night at that. I don't know if he'll go to the 100, but Tim McMahon is now in the Race of Champions. So that's pretty cool. And the Steffa Street Stock Tour, I'm telling you, like I said it last week, I'm like, they're having the Steffa Street Stock Tour at Fergus. They're going to bring the World of Outlaws in for a support class. I'm telling you, that's the way it was, because it was incredible racing. Justin Vogel, Parker Anderson getting it done, a great field of cars. And with that said, I mean, if you want a full recap on all the week shows, don't miss the power ranking shows. They come out later in the week and touch a little bit more in depth on each event in the region. So we'll touch on that there. But let's get to our must-see events of the week, right? If we got a top three, series events, whatever. Puka, we'll start with you. What sticks out? What are you excited for this weekend?
Well, I just want to thank the sponsor for this segment, which is RV Share. Gosh, I can't get out of my RV Share. So we're halfway through the summer. My brain's 3/4 of the way cooked, obviously. But halfway through the summer, so maybe you're out of vacay time and you have an RV that's just going to sit for the rest of the summer. Click the link below for RV Share, and you can actually rent that almost like a bed and breakfast type deal. You can rent this thing out so you can earn a little income if you've got an RV just sitting there. Also, if you're looking, like USA Nationals are coming up, we're just a few weeks away. You've seen all the campers, where there are 500-600 campsites. You want to be a part of that. Click the link below. You can rent a little RV or a little trailer for the weekend. All right, so we're getting into the must-see. Well, like I said, I talked about the aforementioned already. The fair races tomorrow night in Superior. Now, that used to be a little bit later in the month, Ryan, back in our day, I remember. And that was kind of a big event, but it kind of snuck up on me. So that'll be Tuesday night, which most of you will be tonight. I'll be racing there in Souptown. The Month of Money at Cedar Lake, I will probably be there Saturday night, $5,000 to win. Late models at Cedar Lake. Looking forward to that. And then, like I said, basically a whole week of racing starting tonight, Tuesday night, down at I-80 Speedway. The Kasiskis are really, backing the truck up and investing in this event. $30,000 to win on Thursday, and then the grand finale, $53,000 to win Saturday night. How about you, Bert?
I'm for the first two. I'm staying local in Eastern Wisconsin. King of the Creek on heat races are Wednesday night. Feature is Thursday night at 141 Speedway, $10,000 to win. IMCA stock cars. It used to be $5,000 to win, but they upped it to $10,000 to win this year. And then Shawano Speedway has their Midsummer Classic next weekend. So it'll be two complete shows, one on Friday night, one on Saturday night. Increased purse in every division. Four cylinders will not race Friday night, I believe, and then street stocks will be replacing them. So street stocks come in for one race per year at Shawano Speedway. I think the IMCA stock cars are racing for like $2,000 to win Friday night with 50 lap bonus money, $50 lap bonus money, that sort of thing. So it's definitely the week of money for the IMCA stock cars in eastern Wisconsin. And third, I agree with Puka with I-80. I mean, they're big purses for two of those nights, so you expect some good racing down there.
And World of Outlaws isn't racing this weekend in the late models, right? So knock on wood, right? Hopefully you get some of them guys. You know, I can see maybe a Dillard going. I can see maybe Brandon Shepard, maybe Herb, Dennis Herb Jr., that is. Maybe Madden. I don't know. Madden, is he going to go there, or is he going to go? Is there Southern National stuff going on too? I know Monday and Tuesday this week there is, so I'm not sure if he's going to go. Can you see a Ricky Weiss or Brent Larson going to I-80? Have you heard anything? Are they going to make the trip?
I think I heard Ricky's going. I think the 6M car told me that Ricky's going.
Okay, yeah. Good. So he had a pretty, I guess, a better run, not a great run in Menominee. So hopefully he can get some momentum. I dig on him. I do, because I think he made a mistake with his sniper chassis, but I mean, he's one of our local guys. I dig on him. I want to see him perform. I want to see our guys do well. So hopefully he does well down there.
I know they did testing in Ada on Thursday. And yeah, I would agree. I mean, he had a much better weekend. This Northern Tour has been a little bit better to him. So he got a heat race win. He made a couple of redraws, which was the last time he made a redraw. So, maybe a little testing helped. And like I said, now you're going to get 5 nights on down at I-80. I guess that won't hurt to get the laps.
Right, for sure. So my upcoming events, I'm sticking all local. I had I-80 on there, but you guys talked about that. And of course, if you're a late model fan, that's a huge, huge deal. I am looking forward to that. But I'm going to start with the Fastlane Superstock Series. It's a 2-week series, of course. Week number 1, Friday at Princeton, Saturday at Ogilvy, Sunday at the Granite City Motor Park. Dennis McCulley's done a hell of a job promoting that deal, reaching out to the drivers. The drivers do a great job supporting it. And then next weekend, we'll talk about that. There's a 4-night swing next weekend. And Shane Sabraski is the reigning champ for that, but he's not going to be there because Sabraski is going to be running. The next thing that I'm excited about is the Advantage RV Mod Tour. They got a 4-night swing. They're going to Norman County Raceway up in Ada on Thursday. Friday, they're going to be up in Grand Forks. Saturday, Greenbush. Sunday, Bemidji. Interesting to me. That whole swing is interesting because Ada and Grand Forks don't have mods, right? So they're going to have to rely on all travelers to make those shows a success. And then, of course, Saturday in Greenbush, they have mods on a weekly basis, but they only get like 7, 8 of them because they usually get some Canadian cars down from Winnipeg. The borders are closed, so hopefully they get some good support, some good follow-up with that. And then, of course, my favorite has been the Steffa Street Stock Tour, 4 nights in central Minnesota. They're racing at the KRA Speedway in Wilmer, Fiesta City Speedway in Montevideo, Madison Speedway, and then the Casino Speedway over in Watertown. So as far as series races, there is a ton of them this week. And then, of course, Puka, you mentioned the $5,000 to win for late models at Cedar Lake, which is, of course, I think that's the only real big late model show coming up this weekend. So lots of good racing in all the classes. And do you have any weekend plans? Are you guys going anywhere this week?
I'm planning on going to Shawano Speedway Friday and Saturday, and I'll watch the King of the Creek at 141 on Flow Racing.
Puka?
Yeah, like I said, we might make her down to Cedar. It's weather and everything, but I know I say on this show a lot of times we might, but I'm over 50% chance.
I am going to head down to the Sycamore Speedway. My buddy Dave Dolchek, he actually has the point lead down there right now. And we're going to look to widen the gap just a little bit and get a little bit of a distance on second place. And he still hasn't parked in Victory Lane. He's in the front every night. We're going to find just a little bit more speed in that 83 car. I think we're going to have a little something for him this weekend. So that's where I'm going to be. I'll be watching a pile of races online as always. But I want to get to a track as well. So that'll be the one. So guys, with that said, that's 89 in the books. We're about to turn over to another number here next week. Bert, I know you have something.
I have one thing to say. Racing for a Reason is coming up at Toronto Speedway the last weekend of July. And for that, I always make a special custom die cast to be for a silent auction. So on next week's show, I will show that die cast off to everybody.
Whose is it?
I can't say yet.
Oh, you're killing us. You're killing. So I did see somebody ask, where did you get that collection? Just touch on that too, because you have a great collection. Somebody I don't know asked.
All the cars directly behind me are custom made by myself.
Okay.
Yeah, these are all my MJ McBride cars, and then some other custom cars that I've made. And this is a Chuck Buckby wedge nose. Nick Avlink from several years. This is MJ's car from 1988 or so with the wedge nose. So
I still haven't done this. We're going to have an episode where you literally just go, this one is this one is, because you got a lot of them. There's kind of
we can do that. And
right.
Then if you go over here, those are cars that I bought.
Okay. So it turns out those ones are a little cheaper than some of the ones that I bought over the last 30 years here. So with that said, hey, great visiting with you guys. We can talk racing all night, every night. Puka, we'll turn it to you.
Yeah, so thanks everyone once again for joining us. So like I said, make sure you subscribe so you can see the episode next week with Bert doing the diecast. As Ryan had already mentioned, the power ranking show, so get subscribed. So you see those will be out later in the week. And like we've talked about this one other time, we're still kind of looking for an intern. theonetogoshow@gmail.com, theonetogoshow@gmail.com if you have anything there. I want to thank our great sponsors, of course, Dirt Track Supply, L&M Radiator, BuyRaceShirts.com, Cowboy Up Racing, Zuli's Race Engines, and RV Share. So with that, get out there and be your dream. For Ryan Aho, for Bert Lehman, I am Puka. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.